Shalom, Yasharala. First and foremost, I'd like to start off this lesson by giving all praise and glory into Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rachakadash. The honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone that rule well, that taught me this truth. Peace and blessings to the hopeful elect. I'm the brother Kodama Locke. I want to bring on the lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai. May this lesson be edifying unto the elect, to the speckled birds that are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Alright, the Israelite foreigners. They look like the other nations, but their line go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right, which make them Israelites. All right, that's how we declare, our pedigrees, all right, from our fathers, pursuing Numbers 1 and 18, right. And this is real quick. I believe I'm entitled to the lesson. What was it? Listen to the advice. Right, listen to the advice. Right, and this is more for younger brothers, that may be coming up. You may be watching the videos. You may not be part of a camp yet. All right, but even with you not being part of a camp, well, you have to understand, watching these videos, and the spirit that is supping with you, that brothers are always giving out counsel, through the lessons, breaking it down. instructing you in the spirit. And Salakia, brothers been around for a while. So, brothers over you in the spirit, they got more experience. All right? And when they're giving you counsel and advice, you really need to take it. Right? Brothers don't talk and and break things down because it sounds good, man. Listen to the advice, take the advice, and, seek, the wise counsel that brothers are saying. Brothers been around and we done seen, time after time, Jake don't, listen and take the counsel, and you look up and you in a bad predicament. Right? Or you're already in a bad predicament and then you go about something the wrong way and your predicament comes out even worse, right? Brothers don't just say it because it sounds good. Brothers experience things. We've been through it, and we've seen other brothers go through it. So it's always best, to listen to the wise counsel, all right, and apply it, right? So this is the book of Proverbs, chapter 12, verse 15. It says, "The way of a fool is right in his own eyes," right? The way of a fool is right in his own eyes. A lot of you Jakes, you like to do things, according to, the way you want to do it because your emotions and your feelings and, right, this is my life, the grown man spirit. I'm a grown man. I'm going to go about it how I want to go about it, after a brother may already gave you counsel on how to go about it, what you should and what you shouldn't do, right? It says, "But he that hearken unto counsel is wise," right? He that hearken unto counsel is wise, man. When you hearken on to the counsel and you truly listen to what brothers are saying and you actually apply it, you're going to see, a big difference from, thinking you got it. You just got it like that. Well, I've been around, so-and-so 2, 3, 4 years, man. I got it. Right? But it's wise when you listen, to brothers and apply, what's been said. And a lot of it starts with examining yourself, all right, not letting yourself get too puffed up in pride to where you feel like you've been around long enough and you don't have to listen to brothers over in the spirit. Actually, Salakia, let me get this precept. Salakia, make this water. Because the scriptures talks about this. Right? Okay, this is the book of Sirach, chapter 32, verse 9. "If thou be among great men, make not thyself equal with them. And when ancient men are in place, use not many words." right? So when you around, older men or great men in the spirit, all right, because you can't really put a time limit on, great men. Great men are great men in the spirit, man. It's a spiritual thing, right? So you don't make yourself equal, to brothers who've been around longer than you, all right? And, no matter how many, precepts you can break down, how many scriptures you can pull out, that's not what it's about, man. Because, Jacob get puffed up in pride because they feel like they can pull out as many precepts or break as many scriptures down as you. All right? And you're forgetting to, that this is a spiritual thing. And brothers been around and brothers, got experience. All right? Brothers been around longer. Meaning what? Hey, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai chose to deal with that man, when you were in the world. You wasn't even around. You was still being a nigga. All right? And this brother was, laboring in the faith. So, to come up into another man's, labor, be part of a camp that brothers had already, had established, and Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai has established, and, you try to make yourself equal to those brothers, you going off. And, you're supposed to always have in your mind, these brothers been here before me, So you have to have, you have to respect that, right? You don't make yourself equal, to brothers in the spirit. And it said, and when ancient men are in place, use not many words, and Jay got to remember that, right? You don't have to be, talking as much as, other brothers, in the spirit, man. Have respect, Look at yourself and examine and say, you know what? Hey, let me be quiet. These brothers are talking out of experience. They've been around more, right? And then not only that, you get to listen and learn from that. Hey, how about Shem Yahweh Shai, set men up before you, for you to learn from them. How to move. So you don't have to, go through, certain things, brothers have to go through. You get to learn from them. And that's a beautiful thing, man. You get to learn, from brothers, before you go out and do something, stupid. All right, before you make the wrong decision, you get to reflect on the other brother's experience. Well, that brother said he went through it. I wouldn't want to do it like that, So, actually, I'm going to take it up a little bit. This is Sirach 32. I'm going to take it up to 7. It says, speak, young man, if there be need of thee, and yet scarcely when thou art twice asked. Right? Speak when there's a need. Because, sometimes you can find yourself, having a good time with brothers, and you're chilling. You may be having some yaya, and then, you look up and you speaking more than everybody else. Right? You have, know your role, Let's keep reading. It says, and yet scarcely when thou art asked twice, let thy speech be short, comprehending much in few words. Be as one that knoweth, but yet holdeth his tongue. Right? So, it may be things all right, but when you're around, older brothers in the spirit, man, hey, sometimes you have to hold it, man. As bad as you want to, say certain things or bring out certain scriptures, man. Hey, when the mother brothers is flowing in the spirit, hey, it's best to take the low route sometimes, right? Jake, we all excited. Jake want to throw his 2 cents in, but hey, guess what? Sometimes it's best to just chill. Don't say much, man. Let those brothers that, who's been laboring before you, man, let them have it. Let them brothers have their way, And the scripture says, it's a time to speak, man. But let me get back more to the point, right? So listen to the advice, right? Let me get something. It's the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7, verse 5, and it says, "It is better to hear the rebuke of the wise than for a man to hear the song of fools," right? Now it's better to hear, that rebuke of the wise, right? Not all the time, do a brother have to just explain it to you. Sometimes you need rebuked. Sometimes you need a brother, to really get at you, right? And truly, that's that brother, showing love. The scriptures say that open rebuke is better than secret love. All right, you need a brother, to really cuss you out, right? And if you can receive that and understand that, well, this is coming out of form of love because this brother, truly loved me and he cared for me. He don't want to see me do wrong. All right, then you received it. That brother received you, and you guess what? You still got a brother. The scriptures talks about that. Lord, let me see if I can find it real quick. All right, cause hey man, we need each other, man. And Lord willing, I can find it. I haven't brought that out in a while. Actually, I believe this may be it. Lord willing. Con. This is Matthew 18 and 15. It says, "Moreover, if thy brother shall trespass against thee, go and tell him his fault, thee and him alone." Right? So, if a brother do something that's not pleasing unto you, you know, hey, you can take it to that brother, just you and him alone. You speak with him, you know, even if, it may be out of rebuke or it may be out of, truly having to understand one another. And it says, "And if he shall hear thee," right? If he shall, receive thee and hear thee, thou hast gained thy brother, right? All right, so you get to understanding. Guess what? You gain that brother. You gain that brother respect, and you gained him, right? You didn't lose a brother out of a certain communication. No, you listen, right? You learn. You chopped it up, right? You gain that brother. Let's see. Yeah, come on, stop there, right there, right? So really, listen, to the advice brothers is telling you, man. Brothers ain't gonna tell you nothing wrong. Trust me. You know. Hey, brothers are. Hey, we're gonna tell you, everything we've learned. All right, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. How to keep your family in order to the best of your ability. Certain things you should and shouldn't do. All right, not being a lion in your household. Right, because that's one of the number one things when Jake comes in the truth. Hey, a lot of them can seem to turn into that line in the household. When everything could be all good within the house, but that spirit set flame to you, and you hear another brother's testimony or how he rule his household or how he speak with his woman and how he deal with his kids, and you try to apply those same things, right? And here it is, you just split up your household, man, because you became a lion in your household when your household was pretty decent. That's why the scripture says all things, are not for everyone, right? Let me see something. Well, I'm not gonna find that too. Bear with me for a quick second. Right? Let me see. Not all things are lawful. And Lord would have made the spirit to have me, find it. I just had that scripture, right? But the point was, all things are not for all men. So just because one brother may be dealing with a situation, all right, that don't mean that's your situation. All right, and you don't have to move, how the other brother move. All right, when it comes to a certain situation, right? With the way he deals with his woman or and his family, right? That it may sound cool, right? It may sound, oh, well, this brother, got it all, going in the spirit and completely, and then you want to try to press the issue about certain things, all right? And you done broke up your household, man. And your woman don't want to be around, your kids don't want to be around, man. All because you try to do what another brother is doing. You got to understand, that's that brother, that's that brother's lot, to deal like that. All right, and it may not be for you, but these are the, it's all a process, but these are the things you learn. All right, and you don't learn by just doing things how you want to do it. You learn by taking heed. Right, you learn by listening, watching. Let me see. This is 1 Timothy 4:16. Take heed unto thyself and unto the doctrine. Continue in them. For in this doing, this thou shalt both save thyself and them that hear thee. Right? Take heed unto thyself, take heed unto the doctrine, right? And take heed, to the brothers, all right, that are over you. Hey, the scriptures say, let me get this. This is Hebrews chapter 13, verse 17. Obey them that rule over you and submit yourselves, right? You have to submit yourself. For they watch over your souls as they must give account, that they may do it with joy, not with grief, for that is unprofitable for you, right? Submit yourselves to brothers, man. All right, we see a lot of jakes, fall out this truth and go back into the world because they didn't truly want to submit unto brothers, man. All right, because they knew, part of submitting was, having to listen, having to take rebuke, but they was too puffed up and proud, all right, just to sit back and listen, all right, and be in order. All right, they didn't like the order. All right, and the scripture say, let all things be done decently and in order. All right, and if you got a spirit of not liking order and not liking certain brothers over you, and you feel like, well, I'm pretty much equal to him, no. The Lord the Lord will get you out of here for that, right? So the scripture say they watch over our souls, just like we have brothers over us. Everybody have somebody over them. We got brothers over us. Our elders, our apostles. Guess what? They watch over our souls to make sure that we're going in the right track and the right path. All right, even if they have to cuss us out, even if they have to pull us to the side and talk to us. They're making sure we don't go astray from Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. So however that message is delivered, it's all from the Spirit of the Lord. All right, to keep you sharp. The scriptures say, iron sharpeneth iron, so do a man sharpen the countenance of his friend. So you always have to look at it on a spiritual level. Like, hey, listen, I'm being sharpened. They're making sure I don't go astray. They're making sure I don't fall off, track with the Lord. Right? So, understand that, man. We're watching over your soul. All right, you younger brothers, yeah, your soul is being watched over, man, and that should be comforting. That should be a beautiful. You should say, hey, man, I got beautiful brothers that making sure I'm not going astray. Right? It says that they may do it in joy and not with grief, for that is unprofitable unto you, man. Right? And this ministry, it shouldn't be unprofitable unto you. Everything, in the spirit, should profit you. But yet, hey, the scriptures say there is one that teacheth many, but is yet unprofitable. I'm going to get that, Lord. What if my phone don't go dead? Because I see it's looking like it want to go dead. Right? This is the book of Sirach, chapter 37, verse 19. There is one that is wise and teacheth many, and yet is unprofitable unto himself. Right? And that ain't the guy you want to be. Right? Yeah, you got the breakdowns, you understand the spirit. Yeah, you wise. And when hey, we go out once, yeah, we go out throughout the week, we teaching, and we teaching many, man. It don't matter if you only get one view on your videos. Esau, you done be playing with the video, playing with the numbers. You be teaching a lot more people than what you think you're teaching. A lot more people are really watching. When we on the highways and hedges, hey, we teaching a lot of people, right? It says, and yet it's unprofitable unto himself. So here it is, you teaching, all right, you coming off like you wise, but you're not being profitable unto yourself. Why? Because you're not applying, a lot of things that you're saying. All right, you're not applying a lot of things that our brothers are telling you, right? You just, doing things how you want to do them, right? And the scripture says there's a way that seems right to a man, but the end thereof is death. So you may be thinking you on the right track, all right? And you could be working your way up out of here. That's why it's important to take heed. The scriptures say, how can a young man cleanse his way? By taking heed, by listening. Not trying to make yourself, equal. All right, not being rock-headed, saying whatever. Well, I'm gonna go about it my own way anyway. All right, and then when your situation comes out bad, you running back to the Akim crying about it, man. When you should have just listened in the first place, right? Let me see. Let me see. I might have one more. Let me see. It's James 1:19. It says, wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. Right? And that's the beautiful scriptures. All right? Man, actually, that's one of the brothers within the camp, Yaquab, that's one of his favorite scriptures. All right, that brother bring that out a lot. All right? So, be swift to hear. All right, be swift to hear, the advice, brothers has to give, man. And their testimonies, and their experience, man. Be swift to hear that, because you can learn a lot from it. You will learn a lot from it. It says slow to speak, all right? Not always hasty to utter some things. All right, especially around, older brothers that have been in the spirit, that's been around, man. Sometimes you got to just take the low route, chill, and listen. All right, and be slow to wrath. Right? And don't let as the scripture say. Let me get something real quick. All right. And some brothers are still learning this, but it's all right. Everything's a process, right? This is Ephesians 4:26. Be ye angry and sin not, and let not the sun go down upon your wrath. Right? So yeah, we get angry, we get frustrated. All right, but that's no excuse to sin. Right? That's no excuse to say, forget it. I'm gonna do things how I want to do things. As the scripture says, it's better to obey than get a sacrifice of fools, man. It's better to listen before you go out and do some stupid shit. Right? And let not the sun go down upon your wrath, man. So if you were mad at something through the day, you pissed off, hey, before that day is over with, man, cleanse it, purge it out as best as you can. You may have to fast, you may have to pray, all right, but don't be pissed off all day, all the way through the night. Then you wake up with demons on you, man. Cleanse that, right? So, hey, that about does it for this lesson. Lord willing, the elect was edified. Until next time, all praise and glory be due. And to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Kakadash. Double honors due to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone. I'm going to say shalom.